shared, and you all can correct my understanding of bhakti. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja ISKCON गुरुवर्ग की जय, आचार्य श्री दास ठाकुर की जय, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. All glories, all glories, all glories be some devotees. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vidamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyati Deshikarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Ekam karoti vācālam pankudangāyate kirim yat kripātamaham vande Shri Gurum Dīnatarinam. Ramasheshta Marmapi Sachaputramakaskripam Rupam Tasya Vijayam Purim Goshtavati Radha Kundam Girivaram Aho Radhika Madhava Hasam Rakto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Kannatosmi Shri Gurum Kannatosmi Shri Gurum Kannatosmi. Hare Krishna. I seek the blessings of all the senior Vaishnavas present here. The presence of their presence is the blessing that I'm seeking. I do not have any qualifications. I have spent so many years hearing from them, so I'm hoping that they'll bless me by their words of correction and feedback. I want to learn more and I want to become humble. Today's topic is on these two qualities of humility and tolerance. And obviously most devotees would have realized that the topic, the verse which speaks the most about humility and tolerance is Shikshashtaka, verse 3. Can someone recite the Shikshashtaka, verse 3? Would anybody like to volunteer? Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mataji. Trinadapi Sunichena, one who thinks himself lower than the straw of grass. Taroriva Sahishnuna, who's more tolerant than a tree. Amanina Manadena, one who does not expect personal honor, yet is prepared to give it to others. Kirtaniya Sadahari, can very easily always chant the holy name of the Lord. So, in this verse, we see there are 4 principles mentioned. One is of thinking oneself lower than the straw of grass, humility. To be as tolerant as a tree, tolerance. Do not expect personal honor, and yet be willing to give it to others. So there are 4 principles that are mentioned in this verse. So one thing that I have personally meditated on, I was mercifully given Harinam Diksha by my Guru Maharaj 2 years ago. And at the time of initiation, he asked for the vow, 2 vows. One of chanting 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and the second vow of following these 4 regulative principles. Could someone volunteer and say what the 4 regulative principles are? That all devotees who are practicing Gaudiya Vaishnavas follow? Yes?
No meat, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. So no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, and no intoxication. Now, one thing that always struck me was these 4 regulative principles are telling us to not do something. Like, don't eat meat, don't commit to illicit sex, don't struggle, don't succumb to intoxication, and don't gamble. So, 4 no's and 1 do. One do of chanting Hare Krishna and these 4 no's. So I used to always wonder, why is there so much emphasis on the no's? Why are we being told to? Why are we following this process of neti? No. Why so many regulative principles? And one thing that I have heard from our senior Vaishnavas, our Varishta Vaishnavas, is that these 4 principles, which were given to us by our dear Srila Prabhupada, they're actually hinting at something much deeper. It's not just don't eat meat and don't commit illicit sex. There's something much deeper over here. So, as I read the Bhakti Shastras, I came to realize that actually that there are 4 principles of human life. The 4 principles or the 4 legs of Dharma. And those 4 legs are: 1, austerity. That we commit to a certain practice without, despite it giving us some immediate discomfort. Austerity. 2, honesty. That we are honest not just with others, but with ourselves. 3, forgiveness. That we show compassion to living entities, whether they are, small or big, not just human beings. And 4, cleanliness. That when we clean ourselves, both physically and internally, then we are actually cleaning our heart. That we are removing ourselves from the identification of our body. And so I realized that these 4 regulative principles that Srila Prabhupada has mercifully given us are actually a reflection of these 4 principles of human life. So, the principle of intoxication, to avoid intoxicating substances, addictive substances, is actually our commitment to the vow of austerity. That we purposefully seek to accept immediate discomfort for the sake of a higher goal. So when we are being asked to prevent ourselves from succumbing to intoxication, we must think of austerity as the principle. Similarly with gambling, every time you gamble, you have to deal with deceit. You have to deal with lies. And hence, the principle of the activity of gambling is actually breaking our ability to be truthful. So, to maintain our honesty, avoiding gambling is a first step. 3, meat eating. When we eat meat, we are not just trying to satisfy our tongue, but we are doing it at the cost of another living entity. We are doing it at the cost of another living entity's life. And so that avoiding illicit sex or sex outside of marriage is that when one refrains from indulging in their in the senses of in the bodily senses, then one is detaching themselves from the concept of their body. Because those who are deeply involved in sense pleasure are always thinking, oh, how's my hair today? How do I look? What is that person think of me when they look at me? Is there anybody who's more good looking than me. And so we're always worried about the bodily concept when we are so focused in sense pleasure. So avoiding intoxication is to observe austerity. Avoiding gambling is to be truthful. Avoiding meat eating is to be forgiving or compassionate. And avoiding illicit sex is to maintain the concept of cleanliness. These are deep principles on their own. And what has been a realization for me is that the 4 principles that we have just discussed are very, very deeply connected to this verse, Trinadapi Sunichena Taroriva Sahishnuna. I feel that, or it has been one realization of mine, and obviously the predecessor acharyas, that these principles, Sunichena, humility, Sahishnuna, tolerance, Amanina, giving all respects, Manadena, not accepting anything for oneself. These are the real regulative principles for a Vaishnava. To be humble, to be tolerant, to not expect respects, and to be ready to give all respects to others. These are actually, in one sense, regulative principles of a very high level. And I feel grateful that Srila Prabhupada has given us something much easier to practice, but given us the prayojan of where we need to go. That this Trinadapi Sunichena Taroriva Sahishnuna verse is actually indicative of these 4 regulative principles, but at a much, much deeper level. Because if one is humble, one is tolerant, and one is able to give respects without expecting any other, then what to speak of being a human being, they are at a consciousness which is rarely obtained in this world. So I feel that these are 4 regulative principles which are the do's, and the 4 they are the same regulative principles that Srila Prabhupada gave us, but in terms of do's, because it's hard to keep hearing don't do this, don't do that, because every time someone says don't do something, we want to do that even more. So by knowing that these 4 regulative principles can be encapsulated in this verse, Trinadapi Sunichena, is very hope-giving for me. In this regard, there is a senior godbrother of Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, and there was once this situation where he had some Western disciples, and these disciples had committed an offense to another Vaishnava. So Puri Maharaj, in his grave mood, told them, before you were eating meat, and you gave up eating meat to become a Vaishnava. But now, by committing an offense to the Vaishnavas, you are actually eating the meat of the Vaishnavas. So it's better that you go back to eating meat, because that is not as bad as hurting the Vaishnavas. And so the true essence of these 4 regulative principles that we have are being encapsulated in this verse through this simple understanding that anarthas are very dangerous for us. Anartha, if translated from Sanskrit to English, translates as anartha. Artha means wealth or fortune, and an means misplaced fortune. So an anartha is something in which we assume we get fortune, good fortune from, but from which we actually don't get anything. In fact, it hurts us. It's like the camel. The camel eats cacti in the desert, and it loves the taste of the cacti, But if you actually analyze what it's tasting, it's actually tasting its own blood. It's eating the cactus hurts its tongue, blood oozes out of its tongue, and tasting that blood is what is giving it pleasure. So an anartha is that where we have an illusory idea of where we get our good fortune from. And this verse, Trinadapi Sunichena, is the shovel by which we can remove the anarthas from our heart. One other beautiful thing about Trinadapi Sunicheta is, how many of you know how many times this verse occurs in the Chaitanya Charitamrita? This verse occurs in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but does it occur just once? Okay, how many people think that this verse occurs once? How many people think it occurs twice? 3 times? 4 times? Okay, now I'm just messing with everyone. It occurs 3 times in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This one verse is repeated thrice in the same book. The most prominent occurrence that most of us remember is from the series of 8 verses that Mahaprabhu composed. What is the name of those 8 verses? Shikshastakam. So those prayers occur at the end of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But there are 2 other cases when this verse occurs. The first occurrence is when Mahaprabhu is speaking to Shuklambar Brahmachari, and the second instance is when Mahaprabhu is giving instructions to Raghunath Das Goswami. So, for those who may not know, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan were saints who lived very, very austere lives, but who compiled so many verses that are the basis of our practice in bhakti. So most of the texts and the commentaries that we read are either theirs or a translation that they have taken from various parts of the Vedic literature that emphasize bhakti. So Raghunath Das Goswami is one of those Goswamis, and what he said and what he represents is that he's considered the Prayojan Tattvacharya, which means that the teachings of Raghunath Das Goswami and his life are indicative of the final goal that all bhakti yogis want to achieve. In the end, what are we all searching for? We're all searching for love and how to love. At a very, very specific level, we are searching for Radha Dasya. We are searching for Krishna Prem. We want to fall in love with the lordships and be engaged in the seva of their pure devotees. So Raghunath Das Goswami is he's reflecting that mood of being the Prayojan Tattvacharya. His teachings are considered what we consider the goal of bhakti. So one may think that for someone like Raghunath Das Goswami, Mahaprabhu would have shared something very intimate about him. He would have shared some very intimate instructions with him about, how to reach Krishna. There's some secret meditation which only you can do and, others who are not qualified cannot do. Or there's some secret, text which you must read which will reveal everything about, your seva or your service in the spiritual world. But interestingly, when Mahaprabhu is speaking to Goswami Pad, he tells him, okay, you must meditate on Radha and Krishna on your mind, and eventually the seva that you will take up in the spiritual world will be revealed to you. But just 3 verses before, he's telling Goswami Pad, don't gossip. Like don't waste your time, just just watching CNN and Fox News and like comparing anchors and what they are sharing. He's saying don't gossip, which is kind of a very rudimentary instruction. It's kind of an instruction which you would get from many personality development, folks on YouTube and Instagram. So it is interesting that Mahaprabhu, who's considered Channa avatar, who's Radha and Krishna in one form, is telling the most exalted saint in our disciplic succession, don't gossip. And what is even more interesting is that after sharing all these instructions, in the end he says, if I had to conclude every instruction that I have shared with you, I will conclude it with one verse. The verse is Tanadapi Sunichena Taroriva Sahishnana Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. It is so interesting that this subtle and deeply internal practice of bhakti has so much to do with something, with a quality as well known, as well studied, but not as well applied as humility, as tolerance. Whenever I feel crisis, I like to go back to this verse. So one quick personal story. So last night, we were driving back from Alpharetta, and in the middle, like the car's check engine light went on, and we're stranded. We're like, we never saw this alert yesterday. Why is it happening now? And it's like really, really late at night. It's like almost 11:45, and so I'm like, my God, we're stuck here. We're not going anywhere. And Nitai Prabhu was with me in the car, and we're discussing options. Okay, should we just leave the car here, take an Uber, and come back, or should we call AAA? Should we get someone to tow the vehicle? What do we do till then? How will we keep the car safe? How will we get back? And so I was feeling lots of anxiety. I was like, what's wrong? Like, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, why is this happening to me? Like, I'm going to, for those of us who live in the temple, we try to sleep early, get up early, live a healthy life. We try to wake up early in the morning at 4 a.m., have cold showers, and then perform the ceremony of Mangalarti, the Tulsi Arti, Narsimha Arti. And so it was giving me a lot of like irritation, and I was venting it out on Nitai Prabhu. And then one thing that he told me that really struck me was, Prabhu, you cannot control the situation. So stop trying to control the situation. That desire to control every situation is causing your anxiety. And so immediately I was reminded of this verse, Trinadapi Sunichena Taruriva Sahishnana. Because this tiny blade of grass cannot control who steps on it. It's there. And people walk on it, and people don't even say, oh, hey, I'm so sorry, I stepped on you. No, nobody's going to care. You can run on it, you can pull it out of the ground, you can, throw your garbage on it. Nothing. Similarly with the tree, it is so interesting. There's this Persian saying that the sandalwood tree is so magnanimous that it is giving perfume to the same axe that is cutting it. I repeat, the sandalwood tree is so merciful that it is giving perfume to the same axe that is cutting it. And so what I realized then is that that tendency that we have to control every situation is actually that ahankar, the ego within, manifesting the desire that I want to be in charge. Like, I want to be a mini God in myself. I want to be able to dictate the future and control my present. And in this verse I realized, looking at the example of the small blade of grass and the tree, we can learn so much about how they relinquish their desire for control. And in relinquishing that desire for control, they are able to be so peaceful. I've never, walked past a tree and say, man, it's so cold today. It's raining today. Like, why? Nobody's bringing me blankets. Like, what was all these vehicles, these humans, they don't know how to control their pollution, and it's affecting me. Like, these people cut me down, and then they don't grow anything else in my place. You never hear a tree complaining. So, in my heart, what I feel is that this tendency to want to control every situation is a big impediment to our bhakti. And this verse, meditating on this verse every day, can help us. For those who are very sincerely practicing bhakti, and especially the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in his book Bhajan Rahasya that this verse, Trinadapi Sunichena, is a verse, is like a prayojan verse for all those who are struggling sadhakas, for those who are seeking the stage of nishtha. Meditating on this verse for those who are struggling with stability is, a key benediction of this verse. So, one contemplation that the acharyas reveal about nishtha is that when you talk about nishtha in Sanskrit can be translated into internal satisfaction. And so I've always deeply wondered, we hear the stories of these great saints, who have been meditating for so long. Like, what does internal satisfaction mean for them? What is nishtha for them? Bhaktivinoda Thakur specifically says that nishtha is not peace. It's not that there are no more problems in my life, that's why I'm stable. But nishtha is about being able to balance their head and their heart in all crises of life. So someone in the stage of nishtha is not devoid of problems. It's not that they have a dearth of problem. They actually might have many more challenges, but they choose to go out of their comfort zone in a healthy way, not in a way that causes, destruction, but in a way that balances head and heart. Because the head is always coming up with newer and newer desires, and newer intellectualizations of how the world works and what I can do to be happy. And the heart is saying, all I want is to experience the emotion of happiness. For someone who uses their head without their heart, they're called a philosopher. They just love to, speculate and come up with their books, and, it's nice to it's nice popcorn for the mind. But for those who just work using their heart without using their head, they're sentimental. Because for one, ill word that is uttered to them, they will cry. And for one very minor pleasure, they'll become extremely happy. And so nishtha is that ability to balance the demands of the head and the needs of the heart. So, and that only happens, that balance between head and heart only happens when one goes out of the comfort zone. So I reflect a lot on this because we, when we consider ourselves a part of Srila Prabhupada's mission, this mission of Mahaprabhu to, Prithiviti Yache Nagaradi Gram, to go out and to meet people and to share the happiness of our practice with them, so that they can feel the happiness that God wants to give them. To do that, one must step out of their comfort zone. It is very easy to rationalize and say, oh, I don't see a lot of people doing this, so it must be like it mustn't be a real thing, it's just some mental concoction of mine. But when one starts moving out of their comfort zone, it's like standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing fully well that Gaur Nitai, that Radha Madan Mohan are pulling the rope that is holding us behind, so that we can safely, parachute onto the next cliff. So I see nishtha very deeply reflected in this verse of Trinadapi Sunichena, because without the ability to balance head and heart, without the ability to balance giving appreciation to others and not expecting any in return, one cannot experience stability. Because crisis is always, it's part of the product description on Amazon the moment you say you're in the material world. So I happened to look, I was, while studying for this class, one thing I happened to look up was, what is the dictionary meaning of humility? Because we're talking so much about humility, what is the dictionary meaning? And Oxford's dictionary says that humility is the capacity to recognize our mistakes. And I felt that it's a very practical definition of humility, because it's very hard to tell ourselves, this is where I fall short. We have the world has created this superficial understanding that if I'm not perfect, if I'm not a perfect example, role model, ideal, human being, I cannot receive love. It's a very weird understanding, but I don't know. Have you all experienced this? That we're scared of revealing our imperfections because we're scared that if I'm not perfect, nobody will love me. They will dog on me. Oh, he eats prasadam so late at night. Oh, he struggles to keep his mind calm. Oh, the moment the new Avengers movie comes out, he's like, the first one to book his ticket. And so we're scared that if we reveal our imperfections, then we lose the love of those whose attention we want. And that's why it is so critical that we find sadhus. Because sadhu means one who's capable of giving unconditional love. They do not need you to be perfect. In fact, why do we need love if we are perfect? It's our imperfections that make us need love. It's our imperfections that make us beautiful. As they say, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. Because only the beholder can appreciate their imperfections. And so bhakti and humility, bhakti starts with humility. And this humility starts with being okay with our imperfections and being able to share those imperfections with sadhus or those who we consider dear friends, dear mentors. When we talk about the concept of humility and tolerance, we must realize that we are not the only ones who have to be humble and tolerant. Actually, if you think of it, we have done a lot of weird things ever since we've been in this material world. We have such weird desires and things which may seem very amoral, or things that we also cannot explain but are just habits. But we see that the Supreme Lord, Radha Madan Mohan, Gaur Nitai, Jagannath Baldev Subhadramai, the Acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, our gurus, are so merciful with us. Actually, they are examples of humility and tolerance for us. We think that, oh, I'm the only one who has to practice humility and tolerance, but no, they are practicing much more humility and tolerance just so that we don't give up our path, our challenges while we practice bhakti. And so, it does help for us to, it's easier for one to practice humility and tolerance if he can read and study the lives of those who have lived before us and who have achieved perfection through this process. Those who have actually, like Srila Prabhupada, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who have actually shown real humility by studying their lives. We forget our imperfections and get hope in order to be able to be more humble and more tolerant. And so, the idea that all of them are giving causeless mercy helps us understand that we are actually not at all deserving of that mercy. What have we done for us to have the opportunity to be with such nice people? What have we done for the opportunity to be able to receive help even when we have not helped someone? What have we done to actually receive this blessing of the chanting of the holy name, such an easy and sublime, yet sublime process for this age? I mean, someone could have easily told us, you're only going to be liberated if you go to the Himalayas, discard, all your clothing and stand on one toe, right? But no, they're saying you don't need to do that. Just chant Hare Krishna. And so causeless mercy is truly causeless. And so meditating on the fact that we don't deserve this causeless mercy allows us to cultivate a humility which is eternal. As I mentioned, we were talking about how the ego always is anxious. And one of the reasons the ego is always anxious is because the ego wants to deserve. The ego wants to feel like, I did this and that's why I'm getting this. And it's so beautiful that Krishna has created the material world for those of us who want to exact on that desire of ego. That's why you have karma. That's why you have justice, right? Because I did something right, so I deserve to be treated the right way. This desire to be in control of circumstances is coming from our ego, and this blocks us from actually experiencing that Trunadapi Sunichena Taruri Vasaishana. There is a beautiful verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I think many of you know it. Anarpita charim chirad karunya avatirna kalo. The last line of that verse is very, very inspiring for me. It says that Sada Hridaya Kandare Spuratyuva Sachinandanaha. Sada Hridaye Kandare. In the cave of my heart, Sachinandan, Mahaprabhu, Spuratyuva, will roar. Basically, it is saying, may the lion like Gaura or Mahaprabhu enter the cave of my heart and roar so loudly that the anarthas in my heart vanish. The offensive tendencies in my heart vanish. And I realized, he's actually there. Mahaprabhu is sitting in our cave like heart. It's a dank, dirty, very, very contaminated cave, but he's sitting there and he's roaring. The problem is we have not gone to the cave. We have not made that expedition internally to that cave. And to make that expedition, Mahaprabhu is saying, Trinadapi Sunichena Taruriva Sarishnima. By humbly accepting what we are and tolerating what may seem uncomfortable, we can actually enter that cave and feel the roar of Mahaprabhu, the lion-like Mahaprabhu. If you look at, there are 4 parts of this verse, Trinadapi Sunichena. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one of the acharyas, the guru of our dear A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada says, because Sunichena over here refers to humility, so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, humility is that which is absent when there is a spirit of enjoyment. It's very profound. Humility is that which is absent when there is a spirit of enjoyment. Understanding that bhakti is a gift that never originally belonged to us helps us recognize our true position, helps us become humble. So I really like, when I think of Trinadapi Sunichena, I remember this line from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Humility is that which is absent when there is a spirit of enjoyment. Taroriva Sahishnuna. Sahishnuna refers to tolerance. Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives this wonderful definition for tolerance. Tolerance is pure compassion free from envy. I repeat, tolerance is pure compassion free from envy. This is interesting because whenever we hear be humble, be tolerant, we are like, oh, let everybody, come and beat us on the head. We'll humbly, we'll stand in front of everybody, they will slap us, they will exploit us, they will cheat us. No, actually, tolerance is more than just accepting what is coming to us. Tolerance is to feel compassionate for the condition of other living entities and to give without expectation. So I really love this definition of tolerance. Amanina manadena. To not expect any respects for oneself and to always give respects to others. So there is a very famous pastime which most of you know. It is the pastime of Bhrigu Muni. Bhrigu Muni is the son of Brahma. Brahma is considered one of the Trinity. He's the Lord of creation of this specific universe. There is Vishnu, who is the maintainer of Mahavishnu, maintainer of this universe, and Lord Shiva, who's the destroyer of this universe. So there was a conversation amongst the saints asking, who amongst these three is supreme? Like, who should I give the most respect to? Because they're all gods. So who's more supreme? So Bhrigu Muni volunteers. He goes to Brahma, and Brahma is his father. So his father says, "Oh, my dear Brigu, come here and, embrace me." And Brigu, to test him, ignores him. He just walks away. And Brahma gets really angry, Like, my God, I'm the creator of the universe, and you don't have the decency to listen to me when I'm telling you something. I'm your father. And Bhrigu Muni immediately says, "Oh dear father, this was a test of your ability to be humble and tolerant. Thank you very much." Then he goes to Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is with Mother Parvati, his consort. And they are considered like cousins, but separated. So the moment Bhrigu comes, Shiva gets up and says, "Oh, Bhrigu, how are you? It has been very long." And Bhrigu exacts a new level of insult. So with Brahma, he just ignored him. But with Shiva, he starts uttering swear words. You beep, 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 And Shiva gets really angry. And we know what happens when Shiva gets angry. His third eye opens and he's ready to do his tandav and destroy everything. First of all, destroy Bhrigu. Immediately, Parvati consoles him. "No, my lord, no, he's testing you. Calm down, he's just testing you." And so Bhrigu realizes, no, I don't think I can give Shiva the position of being the most humble and tolerant. And then he comes to Mahavishnu. Now, Mahavishnu is lying down on on Anantashesh. So when he's lying down, he sees Bhrigu from afar. And when you're lying down, it takes a little bit of effort to get up. And so he says, "Oh, Bhrigu, welcome. I did not expect you. How may I serve you?" Now Bhrigu takes his insult to the ultimate level. The first level was just ignorance. The second level was insulting Shiva. But this time, he goes to a new extreme. He takes his foot and he kicks Vishnu on the chest. Like, "There you go, Who are you?" He kicks him directly in the chest where Mother Lakshmi is sitting. Now, he was expecting a very strong reaction from Mahavishnu. But instead of, pulling out, Mahavishnu has a Sudarshan Chakra with which he annihilates all his enemies. Instead of pulling out his Sudarshan Chakra, Mahavishnu says, "Oh my God, are your feet paining? My chest is really hard, I'm so sorry. Your feet must be hurting. Come here, you sit down, let me massage your feet. I'm so sorry, I should have told you my chest is like rock solid. It must be hurting you." At the moment Bhrigu sees that, tears come from his eyes. How can someone who has been insulted so badly choose to come and, try to attempt to be a servant of the insulter? And so Bhrigu Muni concluded amongst the assembly of sages, amongst all the devtas, I think Mahavishnu is supreme. So here we can see the Lord himself is using his example to show what it means to not expect any respect for oneself. He's getting kicked by a Muni who has no powers in comparison to him. But he's taking that kick, and not just taking the kick, he's coming and trying to serve Bhrigu. So I want to end with two stories. I'll try to keep it really short. So story number one. This is a story of a devotee who went to Vrindavan. He saw a sadhu from whom he wanted to take diksha. He wanted to get initiated by him into the practice. of chanting Hare Krishna. So he goes to the sadhu and says, "O Guru, O saintly person, I want to accept you as my Guru. Please accept me, please give me initiation." Now, from interacting with this devotee, the saint felt that this guy has an ego. He's not sincere. Like, he seems to be pretending. So the Guru says, "Okay, I'll give you. Before I give you initiation, all my disciples have to finish one seva. And the seva is, you have to go everywhere in this world and find one person who is lesser than you in all respects. Lesser than you in all respects means when you compare yourself to them, you're like, this person is definitely lesser than me. So make a list of all such people who are lesser than you." So then and the sadhu says, "I give you 7 days." So the devotee is like, easy peasy. It's going to be so fast, I'll just walk outside, I'll find that guy, this guy, Like, so many people commit mistakes. So yeah, I know, like who's fallen and who's not. So then he starts with the human species. So he travels the Bhuloka and he tries to find people who are lesser than him. But then, after intense searching, he says, "Oh, this, everybody is not greater than me in everything, but there is usually one thing in which they are better than me. Either they are more beautiful than me, or they are more renounced than me, or they have more wealth than me, or they have more fame than me. Something makes them slightly superior to me." Okay, human beings are anyways, really very difficult to understand. Let's go to the animal kingdom. So then he goes to the lions, but hey, the lions are very strong. They can kill me. He goes to the birds. Oh wait, I'm bigger than them, but the birds can fly. I go to the aquatic animals. Well, they're smaller than me, but they know how to swim. I don't know how to swim. He goes to the trees. Well, the trees don't do anything, but they live longer than me. So then he's thinking, is there anything in this world which is actually lower than me? So one day, he goes, after eating prasadam, he goes to one tree and he's clearing his stomach. He's, clearing his bowels. And then it hits him. Yes, there's one thing lower than me. And it's my stool. Stool is definitely lower than me. There is no quality of stool that is desirable, right? But then, after having spent so many days just trying to find good qualities in everybody, he says, wait a minute. Actually, the stool is getting converted into manure, which is nourishing the soil. I can't do that. Man, am I lower than stool also? Then he sees in the stool there's a worm. And then he's like, definitely, it's definitely the worm. But then he thinks, Arey, if the worm does not, digest this stool, then how are the nutrients going to enter the soil? Anything that I do, I consume for myself. I've never done anything for someone else. And in this state of mind, he's completely devastated. My God, I spent 7 days and I could not find anybody lower than me. Like, I have failed at the mission given by my guru. And so, crestfallen, he goes to his guru and says, I looked everywhere. I looked all across the planetary systems. And I realized, my God, I am lower than the worm in my own stool. And just as he's saying that, he remembers the famous verse by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. We can all sing it together, or repeat after me. Jagai madai hoite muni se papishta.
Jagai madai hoite muni se papishta.
Puri sera kita haite muni se lagishta.
Puri sera kita haite muni se lagishta.
Kita, worm. I'm lower than the worm in the stew. And so, with that consciousness, the Guru realizes success. And then he immediately initiates this disciple. Haribo!
Haribo!
One final pastime. So this is about one of our more recent preeminent acharyas, Srila Gaur Gobind Swami Maharaj. So once Gaur Gobind Swami Maharaj was approached by a businessman from this place called Jagannath Puri. And this businessman was not straightforward. He was trying to cheat Maharaj into getting some money from him. So after the businessman left, Maharaj told one of his disciples, you know what? People may say, oh, if I'm so humble and tolerant, then people can exploit me, people can, cheat me, And so I have to be analytical and practical when I look at various devotees or people, because they may come in the vesh of a devotee, but they may have some ulterior motive. We have to be careful with how we deal with people. We may think like that. But then Maharaj said, well, is that the right mood? Because look at the Vrajvasis. They accepted Putana into their midst. She appeared like a beautiful gopi trying to breastfeed Krishna. So they felt, oh, she's trying to serve the Lord. So they let a very wicked and dangerous demon come so close to Krishna. Same thing with Shankachura, same thing with Pralambasur, same thing with Vatsasur. The Vrajvasis just openly welcome these demons into the assembly of these Vaishnavas and ultimately Krishna. Why? How can the Vrajvasis be so naive? And Maharaj said, actually they're not naive. They're much smarter than us. Because they have complete conviction that whatever happens, Krishna will take care of them. Even when another devotee of his, like Indra, comes to destroy Vrindavan just because they are not offering him Annakut, he will come and protect us. So, can we have that complete conviction that Krishna will take care of us? It seems very hard. But I feel that this verse of Trinadapi Sunichena, Taroriva Sahishnuna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari is the pathway to experiencing an iota of what these Vrajvasis have experienced. And so, to conclude, Trinadapi Sunichena, humility is that which is devoid of enjoyment. Tolerance. Tolerance is pure compassion, free from envy. If we don't remember anything else from this from this discussion, let us at least remember these two things. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Actually, all the Vaishnavas are senior to me, so I'm not going to ask for questions. If you have corrections and feedback, please correct me.
I have a question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for class. And I just wanted to, especially since it's a main point, how do we reconcile that humility is that which is absent from enjoyment with chant and be happy? Let me point out that one time you said absent from the spirit of enjoyment, which I think is different from enjoyment itself.
Oh yes, in the sense that even in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, we read Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. It's not Anya Abhilasha, it's not that, oh, be devoid of any desires, but be devoid of that tendency to want something for yourself. If you have a desire, it is fine, but it requires some internal. It's fine to have desires, but it is also important to accept that I have these desires and I would like to be better. So if one receives enjoyment, one can receive enjoyment while honoring prasadam. One can receive enjoyment while seeing the beautiful forms. They're so beautiful today, the forms of Radha, Madan, Mohan, and that enjoyment nourishes the heart. So it's not enjoyment that is the problem. It is the desire to be the soul or the sole cause of the enjoyment or the sole recipient of that enjoyment. That is the problem. That is my understanding.
So it's the motivation that's involved.
The motivation.
That we have, the motivation that I want to enjoy these things versus the motivation of we want to serve Krishna or we want to do other things, and it's kind of a byproduct. The enjoyment is a byproduct.
Yes, Mataji. Mataji already knew the answer. Didn't need to.
I have a question. It's okay. So I have a reflection also. The point you mentioned about Nishtha, that Nishtha is something which you can balance in the hardship and like,
Hidden.
yeah. So that I like that point. Thank you very much for that. I have a question though. In my worldly mind, like I don't understand a lot of spirituality. So when I hear this Trinadapi Sunichana, I understand that grass cannot defend, but I can. So how do I understand that? Because is there any state of the devotees when this verse can be taught to them? Because if anybody teaches this verse to me, I will always take it like that. Grass cannot defend, tree cannot defend. I can defend, so I will do. I cannot be humble as grass because grass cannot defend. Grass cannot do anything when somebody steps on it. But if somebody is going to step on me, then I'm going to step back, right? Step on that person. So is there any state of the devotees when they need to understand this verse more than the state where I am?
This is actually a very deep question and could be another class, but like very short. Actually, this is the third verse of the Shikshashtakam. The Trinadapi Sunichena Taruripa Sahishnana. Out of 8 verses, this is the third verse. Actually, the second verse, is Mahaprabhu saying, I don't have any taste for chanting these holy names. Actually, in the second verse, Mahaprabhu is kind of saying, these are my flaws. It's so easy to chant, but still I have no attraction for them. And I feel that trying to jump to the third verse without accepting the second verse is a problem. And so one can truly understand the purport of the third verse if they are ready to accept that they have no taste. One is willing to accept that they have some flaws in their heart. I feel that if one is not ready to accept that I have imperfections and not ready to show those imperfections in front of the Varishta Vaishnavas, humility is going to be like a superficial thing. So first, let's be willing to expose our imperfections in front of the Vaishnavas who we deeply love, and by their instructions we will cultivate the humility that is necessary. So I don't know if that answered.
No, that's good answer. Yeah, it's perfect answer.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah, just one reflection on from what Prabhuji asked. I think it is also to do with the tendency to enjoy, right? Because if I be humble where I'm in a position to correct, then it's wrong for me. So if my child is doing something wrong or harmful and I be tolerant, then it's wrong. So should be in the context of.
Yes, that's why Mahaprabhu ends the verse with Kirtaniya Sadahari. Because humility and tolerance, I think you've all observed, it can be seen even in some people who might not be devotees. It can be seen even amongst those who are atheists. So humility and tolerance are considered by Jiva Goswami as Sangha Siddhi Bhakti, in that they become beautiful ornaments when practiced with bhakti. So when our motivation is the pleasure of the Lord, then humility and tolerance make sense. Otherwise, we are fighting a losing battle against the stream of this material world which is trying to push us. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the Vaishnavas. Please forgive me for any offenses I might have.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So I'm going to request, thank you for being so patient. So please face their lordships. We're going to have an arati.